Hi, this is Mike Dirks, Regional Missionary Coordinator for the Presbytery of Ohio. This is April of 2025, and today we're going to be talking to Reverend John Shaw about some of the work he's doing there in Columbus, Ohio. So welcome, John, and looking forward to hearing what's happening.
Hey, Mike, thanks for making time to do this. I'm
Yeah,
excited to talk
so
about it.
so you've got something going on in Marysville, Ohio. Why did you choose Marysville, Ohio? Where is it in relationship to Columbus, etc.? Just
Sure. Yeah, so Marysville, Ohio is about 35 minutes northwest of where Grace Church is in Columbus. It's kind of an outer ring suburb, maybe bedroom community. There's a Honda plant there. That's kind of the source of the growth. It's, I think, about 30,000 folks that live in Marysville. Um, I'll tell you what's interesting is that the church here, Grace Church, has been talking about and praying about a mission work in Marysville for 30 years. They've had Bible studies at different points, and it just never seemed to take, and we'd stopped thinking about Marysville. It wasn't so much on the radar. But last year, the session just encouraged the congregation to think about church planting. We had a meeting and an email that went out, just kinds of things to think about, and said that we were interested in thinking about some places where we have families who are interested in church planting. And folks from various parts of Greater Columbus said we'd be interested in helping with a church plant. And one of those places was Marysville. I would, if I was being honest, when I was looking at the list, Marysville probably wasn't number one in my mind. But we have a good elder up there, Chuck Shanks. He met with a couple other families and had them over for lunch and asked them if they were interested. And they were immediately interested and excited and offering ways that they could help. Um, and it just kind of took shape from there. So a lot of it was just where we have people and interest. Um, and it's a good 15 miles from any other Reformed and Presbyterian church. So it's a spot where it seems like there's a good opportunity to plant a new church.
good. So what's the status now? What's the rhythm? What are you currently doing there in Marysville?
Yeah, so we had an information meeting back in February. Invited anybody from the church who wanted to come, encouraged them to invite other folks. And we had about 50 people sign up to come to that, including some people who just wanted to hear what we were doing that aren't necessarily from that part of town. And so we spent some time talking about what it would look like to develop a mission work. And at the end of the meeting, I asked folks if they were interested in participating in a twice a month Bible study, and 35 folks signed up and said, "Yeah, we're absolutely interested." And so we started meeting in March, meeting first and third Tuesdays every month. We have two young families that are part of the group that agreed to host, and so we meet twice a month on Tuesday nights for about 2 hours. Have some time for food and fellowship, about a 30-minute Bible study and 30 minutes of prayer. Um, and interestingly, at all three meetings, so the information meeting and the two Bible studies, we've had new visitors and repeat visitors at all of them. So even that initial group of 35 that said we'd like to participate in a Bible study, five of them are not from Grace OPC. And then we've had seven or eight more folks visit and a couple other families that are planning to visit. So the group's been really good about just telling friends and neighbors, and we're starting to see, people show up because of those invitations.
So it's all just word of mouth and kind of that base group or the seed group, then kind of getting out and inviting others.
Yeah, actually, we haven't done any advertising. We're working on some social media things that folks from the group can share, but at the moment, they'll do something as simple as take a picture of the announcement in the Grace OPC bulletin and post it on their social media accounts. They're sending emails out to folks, calling people. And actually, our last meeting, I think we had seven new visitors
Good.
at our last Bible study.
Good. So where's this tracking? Kind of give what are you thinking as far as timelines, benchmarks? Is it too early to even have those conversations?
Yeah, In some sense, it maybe is, but it's the natural question. I mean, people were asking it the very first night. Um, so here are a couple things that I've encouraged them to think about. Our thought had been maybe next January we'd be ready for worship services to start if everything worked well. But I'm also a little bit of an optimist and I like to push. So I said, man, I'd love if it was, September. A lot of times church calendars work around school calendars. So if we could start having worship services in September, that'd be great. And then the other thing I told the group is I said every 2 to 3 months, part of our meeting, we'll just talk about where things are. How far along do we think we are? What are next steps? So my expectation is at one of our meetings in May, instead of the Bible study, we'll just have some time to talk and say, where do we think we are? Um, if 35 becomes 50 or 55, we definitely probably need to be thinking about worship services. If it's 35 or 40, maybe we take a little bit longer. But yeah, I would say either September or January, hopefully we'd be having worship services.
Very good. Looking forward to that. So let's wrap up with how can the churches, as they're watching this, how can they pray for Marysville? And is it still called Marysville? Are you giving it the name, or are we sticking with Marysville at the moment?
Still Marysville at the moment. In fact, we haven't even called it a church plant yet. It's a
Yeah.
community group, thinking about church planting. Yeah, my first encouragement is to pray for our evangelistic witness. Um, we have 6 to 8 families that live right in the Marysville or on the edges of Marysville area, and they've already been great about inviting folks. They're really trying to think, and we're praying every week about every time we meet about unbelievers that we can invite, friends that we can talk to. Um, and so my biggest prayer is that we be evangelistically energized and be able to see conversions. I think secondly, you just pray for those, like I said, 6 to 8 families. I would say each of them really excited about the possibility. Pray for endurance. Anybody who's been part of a church plant knows it can be slow work sometimes, and you feel the valleys a lot more in a church plant than you do in a fuller established church. So just perseverance. And then I would say pray for leadership. So we've got a good elder up there, Chuck Shanks, but we would love to have 2 elders and 2 deacons pretty early on. We've got some elders and deacons at Grace that are willing to help and even step into those spots for a while. But pray for the Lord to raise up those. And then I'll just share the last prayer because I love this one. Our first meeting, one of the young families prayed this. I loved this because it has a beautiful forward-looking kingdom vision. He prayed that the Lord would bless this group in such a way that our children and our grandchildren would be able to know this place, this new group, as their church. I thought, man, that's a pretty
That is beautiful.
special
Yeah.
prayer.
Yeah, that's very covenantal minded.
Yeah.
Yeah, the generations to come that are children's children, right?
Yep. That's
Yeah,
right.
very good. Well, thank you for your time, John. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what the Lord does there in Marysville.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for your prayers.